Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us at this Your Overseas Home webinar. Make the most of your trip, how to view properties in Portugal the right way, where I am joined by Cristina Reru from Ideal Homes Portugal. And let's just start off straight away by saying hi to Cristina, and perhaps you can tell us a little bit about yourself, Cristina, and of course, Ideal Homes Portugal.
Hi everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to the webinar. Thanks for joining. I am Cristina and I'm one of the real estate advisors, so consultants with Ideal Homes Portugal, so an established real estate company for many years now. And we have been doing what we've been doing best, so helping and assisting buyers with finding a dream home here in Portugal.
Okay, fantastic. Now, so and my name is Christopher Nye. I'm head of content at Your Overseas Home, and I've been writing about buying property in Portugal for about 20 years. I'm in West London. Cristina is on the Algarve. But viewing trips, it's where things get real. I think that some people can get overwhelmed. The choice, they're in a new place, the hotel Wi-Fi they can't work out, they don't know what they're looking for, they don't know what should be asking, and it can feel like you've sometimes left your normal, logical, questioning brain behind in the departure lounge. So what we want to do today is put some structure to the whole viewing trip process. We've got 45 minutes, and Cristina and I will be taking you through the viewing trip process from start to, buying a property, we hope. We'd love to hear from you. Questions, comments, your plans. Type them into the questions tab on the right-hand side of your screen or on the bottom of your screen. And just to get you typing, just to get you interacting a bit, tell us on that questions tab where you are now and where you wish to buy in Portugal. And then be lovely to hear what your plans are. So, Cristina, now before we get into the nuts and bolts of the viewing trip, what is happening in the Portugal property market right now? Buyers market, sellers market, what's it looking like?
Yeah, so it's a very exciting market, to be honest, in Portugal at the moment. It's a very buoyant market. So there is a lot of demand. A lot of people want to come here. And everybody wants to be here, it seems. So I'm talking to, obviously to clients all over the world, UK, US, Canada. A lot of them want to obviously sell on and just, relocate permanently in a lot of cases. And it's not just obviously those kind of, retirees, more those sort of pensioners, retirees brackets that, can do that. It's actually young families as well, young families, entrepreneurs, those ones that work from home, digital nomads. So it's a market for everyone. Plus, coupled with the weather, with the sunshine, more than 300 days, a year, and the lifestyle, strong investment, and that gives you obviously the a little slice of paradise. I call it. It's a little, yes, it is. I mean, it's very much in demand, and this has been a driving force for the obviously the price increase that we're currently seeing. Definitely a seller's market because of the amount of offer out there, and the lack of inventory in Portugal, the lack of sort of listings, shall we say? So,
okay, so it's never been more important than ever to focus on what you're buying, get in there, make decisions in a fairly sort of proactive, structured way. It's not really a time to just sort of be drifting about or doing, in my own sweet time. You have to be organised.
Absolutely, yes. And what I tell clients many a time as well, even to do with obviously for sharing some properties and they liked something, and I keep telling them, you have to come here, you have to be here, and you have to reserve your property. They go so fast. So even if I will be sharing some options with you, don't be disheartened that, I don't want you to see something and fall in love when you get here. Someone's obviously it's being snapped up, and it is as quickly as that. I mean, I can understand why obviously some of the clients will not, probably, oh, okay, it's maybe just, trying to get me over here. Not at all. So it's moving really fast. I mean, listings, depending where in the Algarve as well, not all the areas will obviously perform, the same. They're more residential areas, others are more touristic. Listings typically spend a few months. I mean, good listings, good price and good location and a good property will go very fast. And so, yeah, absolutely. Move fast. This is what I would recommend.
And what sort of properties are people buying? Is there a trend for people looking a little bit inland, or is the coast as popular over? People going for villas, apartments? I know there'll be a bit of everything, but any particular trends you're seeing?
I think that, particular trends, probably people are moving more slightly inland these days, moving away from the coast. Again, the price being another sort of driven factor. So I'm seeing that obviously, they cannot obviously push their budget, high enough to be, to be near to afford that sort of premium coastal property. They have gone up in price really quite steeply, in the last few years. Just to take an example of Spain, neighbor country, you have not seen that trend going because obviously, Spain is a lot more overbuilt. There is a lot of competition there, whereas in Portugal, you've got that sort of, it's a steady market growth, coupled with the, demand and obviously steep pricing. They nearly don't build as enough as in Spain, it's that just to make a parallel there. But definitely is more sort of inland. They're prepared to, to drive, they're prepared to be further away from the airport. They want that little sort of outdoorsy, a little garden, a little sort of, a bit more land. Definitely. Yeah, okay. Definitely we have been seeing that. And also the investment properties. I mean, they will never, people will never stop buying those, a good sort of rental yield investment property. But with those, obviously, location is key as well. So, depends where you buy, if you're after a rental property.
Okay, so what about new build? Are people buying off plan or do they want a property that's finished, would you say?
Tend to see definitely people investing more, I think, in an off-plan new built property. They want to sort of get away from all the traditional properties, just because obviously you've got to invest a lot more in, and they want that sort of new built quality that it provides. You don't need to spend money sort of ripping out a bathroom or a kitchen. Yeah. And insulation again is the damp issues here in Portugal as well. Typically, historically the houses have been built with thick walls, and damp is an issue in the Algarve. So those new builds and modern, obviously all the mod cons, we say underfloor heating, they offer all those more modern, which the buyer is actually, they know that they'll spend a bit more, but they will get that sort of money back, and rather than investing in although the projects are very, very common as well. So people do tend to choose a project when they want to, renovate and they want to do something of their own. Yes. Also very popular. So yeah,
there's a bit of everything then, and I guess, and the fact that you wouldn't assume a hot country like Portugal as having damp. So this is exactly why you need to know what to ask when you're on your viewing trip and know what to check. So let's get into the viewing trip questions. Firstly, I'm ready to come out. When should I contact you? How much notice would be ideal?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, first of all, just to touch down on that, Chris, as well. So the viewing trips are obviously for serious buyers. So the buyers typically at that stage where they are, they want to pin down an area they want to be, and they want to obviously locate the property and want to, are serious to move forward. And so this is where they can be very, very beneficial, because that sort of, it optimizes your time, it optimizes your sort of your energy and your budget as well. So you don't knock on too many agents' doors. We practically do the legwork for you. And so you contact us, a few weeks before coming out, it would be great just to establish that rapport, to get to know you, to get to know your sort of, requirements, financial requirements, property requirements, and just get to know yourself and what you like, where you want to be, what's your sort of lifestyle, do you golf, do you run, do you like, hiking? So it depends, what sort of views are you after, that will give us an indication of location where you want to be. Say if you're buying for, investment. You want a property in a good sort of high performing area. You'd probably not look into a residential area. You'll look in a more sort of touristical spot, because this is where the property will be rented out more. And so, yeah, absolutely. I mean, a couple of weeks before, I would say, before you're coming out.
And what length of time would you say is an ideal sort of viewing trip time? A couple of days?
We 2 to 4 days, anywhere between sort of 2 to 4 days. I mean, what we offer currently is a 3 nights. It's a 3 nights, 4 day trip. So sort of an all inclusive, trip, from flights, accommodation, an all inclusive trip. And this is what we feel that it does give that sort of enough time for, say, to explore different areas. For example, maybe do one area in one day, and then, so it's not overwhelming, it's not exhausting. And obviously the buyer also has, they do see as many properties as possible, but, we're not exhaustingly showing you properties from morning to night. So it's all staggered. I can give an example of a sort of typical day, of course, if you want me to.
Do. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I mean, typically you would come out, obviously, flights all paid by us, and so accommodation. When we're talking about accommodation, is no less than a 4-star hotel. So we choose the hotel based on the area that you're looking for, or perhaps you'll have an idea where you want to be. It's no less than a 4-star hotel, and that includes breakfast. And so pick up from the airport. So the agent will pick you up, when you arrive in Faro, and then depends when in the day. If it is in the morning, then you'll start seeing properties right there and then from the get-go, before obviously dropping you to the hotel later in the day. If it's obviously later arrival, then they will take you to the hotel. You rest for the evening, and then in the morning it all starts. It's your sort of first scouting day. So they typically do split the Algarve in 3 sort of sections. They'll do sort of west, central, and east, and then potentially show you properties in one area one day, and then you'll focus on another. A break for lunch if they feel like, and to just take it all in. So say if it's a lovely sunny day, obviously you'll be exhaustingly seeing properties, so you'll definitely have a break, and then moving on from seeing more properties, and then the evening is free for the buyer clients to do whatever they feel like. They can also go for a stroll in the evening, or go for dinner in the area that they're at, or take a taxi somewhere. They can still do a bit of walking if they feel like. So it's it's all sort of it's tailor-made. So typically the consultant gets in touch with them about a week before to discuss the tour. So to actually discuss the properties that they will be seeing, and what will be available during their viewing to see.
And so it's not like with a UK agent. I know not all of our viewers are from the UK, but they'll meet you at the front door, and they'll basically open the door, and you're on your own. But with you come out, you're showing the area. Presumably, do we have to hire a car, or would you take us around?
No, Chris. The consultant provides the vehicle.
So you take us around.
Yes.
You're showing us the highlights. You're showing us where
they tour them, essentially. Exactly. Yes, and then obviously you've got that building of rapport inside the car as well. So you keep sort of obviously sharing and and talking, and that's important. You're not just following a consultant behind. You know what I mean? It's quite, I think, important. So yes, there's no need to rent a car. The consultant picks them up, so from the airport, hotel, and then drops them off at the hotel. On the same day. And then obviously during this 3-4 days of touring, you also benefit from meeting lawyers. So any of the legal questions they may have, legal advice, all your investment questions answered, taxes, you may have questions on, taxes, relocation, all of that. You benefit from, and also investment advice as well. And as we work with other partner agents in the Algarve, we also show you their portfolio. So you're not missing out in any way. We buddy up with other agents, all the reputable agents we work with. So not everyone in the Algarve, of course, but the more reputable companies, we can share their properties. So you're not losing out in any way. So it's a good sort of comprehensive, tailor-made
Is there, would you say, a best day for coming out, or is it normally a long weekend, or is it tend to be a midweek sort of thing?
You would typically think it can be either, Chris. It depends what's the availability of the availability of the buyer as well. So I could recommend say maybe a midweek if they sort of feel like Wednesday to a Saturday, or a Friday to a Tuesday, or something like that. So they're here over the weekend and it's a long weekend. Or if they prefer midweek, we can also do that. So it's based on typically, to make it easier for the buyers and the clients, what we do is get them to book the flights. So they book the flights themselves, and then we take care of the rest. So this way, obviously, we have we sort of work within their availability and when they are sort of, available.
Interesting. So I was going to ask a question, which was, which months, are there any months that you wouldn't advise coming? I would guess August gets a bit hot, but maybe that's a good time to come because no one else is coming. So when would you advise is a good place to time, or is it any time?
You can do the viewing trips anytime, absolutely. I cannot lie about, obviously, that the summer months are the busier months. And also, typically, the properties that, the buyers may want to see are, maybe being rented out to holiday makers, which they are. So it's a little bit harder to get in. But not all the properties, obviously, are, investment properties. And it's just one thing to think about. And so obviously, and you do have, it is busier everywhere. So you do have more tourists, around. And but otherwise, I mean, you can do the viewing trip anytime. Absolutely.
Sure. And does the price, one of our viewers has asked, does the price of villas vary depending on the time of year?
To rent or to buy? Sorry.
I imagine Lee means to buy. I guess perhaps he's thinking that perhaps if a buyer misses, it's got to November and he hasn't sold it yet, he doesn't want to pay for perhaps there might be bargains to be had at certain times of the year.
Okay. It hasn't got a huge impact, I would say. No, it's not. You do have a reduction here and there, so you do see those sort of reductions on the market, but not near enough to sort of affect altogether. And the prices are pretty high, and they're not. I mean, as much as the owners are considering offers, as long as the offer is not too low and it's not, say, offensive.
Yes.
Even for those ones motivated to sell, even for those ones, typically that they would accept sort of 5 to 10%,
yes.
perhaps.
In terms of, so we're planning the trip still. Let's try. So we're planning out our trip. We're calling you. We're making all the arrangements. We're coming for 3 or 4 days. So what do I need to bring in terms of paperwork or anything? My passport, obviously, I've got to get on the plane. But anything else that I should bring?
Exactly. Nothing else really, Chris. I mean, passport for obviously, for and your flight itinerary. Sure. You can connect with our lawyers and do a power of attorney during our trip. So we could even, we can take care of those things while you're there, or even before. If it's something that you're obviously planning on, you would need the 2 things that you would need to buy a property in Portugal. It would be a tax number and a bank account.
Okay.
And so what we can do is, before you come out, we can make an introduction to the lawyer, and we can already put all those things in place for you. So we could, order you. We can get you a tax number, which you would need, and then obviously get you set up with a bank account. So those things can even be put in, before they come out, or during the obviously the buyer's trip. Yeah.
Okay.
We can take.
So we've come out there. Now, do you recommend some sort of checklist to follow? I mean, we have them on our site. We can download our viewing trip guide, which has its checklist. But what if you was you looking at a home, what are the things that you would be looking for?
I would say, Chris, I mean, definitely do sort of as much due diligence as possible on your own. I think that I would say and investigate areas. Have a look at some videos online of areas or thing. And I mean, it would be really useful to know where you would want to be in the Algarve, just because obviously it's very beneficial to you. If you have pinpointed an area already, so at the end of the day, the house is not, it's just to find a property, an ideal property. But most importantly, know where in the Algarve you want to be, and obviously, what you like, what's your lifestyle like. Do as much sort of a little bit of search by yourself, and then we could then help each other out. So obviously, our experienced consultants can advise on, say, objectives, the best properties to buy, investment, but then they would need obviously your help as well as to, what it is that, you want, what it is that you like, and what, your lifestyle, do you want to be sort of essential to be near hospitals, or, is it how far from the airport? Do you golf? Maybe, so, but I mean, you want to be in a golf setting. And I would say sort of, have a look and this is why typically my job comes in, Chris, at this time. So before the buyer does come out, I build a strong report, and they will be already briefed about all of that with the consultant, who then takes them out. So they won't be taking them out blindly, as to say. They will be already briefed. And this is sort of how my job comes in. So I build a report with, I do typically get in touch with them and qualify, shall we say. So we go through all the criteria, all the steps. We narrow down sort of areas, we narrow down properties, and then
I have helped people buy property overseas on lots of occasions, and quite often we've been through the list. We've gone through the must-haves, we've gone through the like-to-haves, and we've been driving around some lovely overseas place, and they've seen one on sale. I said, I want that one. You think that doesn't fulfill any of the criteria you said, but they've just fallen in love with it anyway. So you should always keep your mind open, shouldn't you, to the wild card option.
Absolutely, and we've always got wild cards. Absolutely, our agents are very experienced and very sort of trained, and it's absolutely important to know that you may have had in your mind A, B, C, and then they ended up like you say, they end up buying Z. And so it all depends with that. It's an emotional, isn't it? It all depends on purchase, tangible asset.
That's true. We've had a question from William, who's asked, how do I find a reputable and reliable agent in the central region of Portugal? Well, you come by Yours Home. It's the first to answer, William, because all our agents are vetted. They're all reliable and reputable. But what other checks are there? How do we know that you're reliable and reputable, Christina?
Well, I think that, you can head to our website as well, check the client testimonials, and obviously by doing this for so many years in the Algarve, even just by sort of, putting it on Google, we are sort of top of the, we've been consistently, selling homes and, to buyers. And also, what we also pride ourselves with is that we're a one-stop shop. So we're absolutely here to help the buyers from different sort of perspectives. We're not just selling homes, so we're assisting with everything. We're sort of A to Z. So offer after sales department. We help with financing, mortgages, currency exchange, and so much more. So we hold the hand throughout the legalities, legal experts, all of that. Not many agents in the Algarve do have that sort of comprehensive service. And so in the end, the buyer and the clients do benefit from that, because it's saving them a lot of time and hassle. Absolutely. And then if I can just touch on that sort of checklist points that you've raised, Chris, about the properties in Portugal. Obviously, it's important for them to have all the documentation right. So you're interested in a property, you want to buy it. Obviously, being listed, it needs to have all the documents. In when it comes to the deed, then it can't be sold. So this is what reputable and well-established agents do. We do not just list properties that have not had the homework, the documents all in order and everything. Having, so I guess trustworthy, it's another important thing, because, not to say that there are many out there, but it's important to work with one agent, because then that sort of saves time and money in the end as well.
And you would have access to all the other properties anyway, but more like an American system where you would sort of a central system, and you could contact the other.
Exactly, absolutely. So this is why the buyer, does not need to knock on too many doors, or say this is one property that I want to use, and then they have to obviously explain and repeat themselves all over again. This is what I'm looking for. As working with one agent, it just saves that sort of, it doesn't need to be obviously, going on, which can be, can be really beneficial.
Okay, so when we're going around properties, are we allowed to film inside properties, just to remind ourselves when we get home?
It's typically okay to have. You can have, obviously, you can have Zoom calls, so you can film, you can video, and you can take pictures. Absolutely, yes, you can film and take pictures. It's not something that's that's prohibited in Portugal. Say, for example, we do have clients that come on without, without their partners. Then they obviously, take photos and, film the property, and then they share with the partner or wife.
And what about when we're looking around a property, how much can you tell us about the property other than what we can see? Would you be able to tell us how much sort of local taxes we might pay, and what utilities are likely to cost, and those kind of details?
Absolutely, yes. All that information we have on hand, absolutely, as per property, as needed. We know what the taxes are for, so the EMI, which is the monthly, like council tax here. Then the IMT, that will be your sort of one-off cost that you pay for, when you're buying the property. That depends per property, is typical of, and then obviously down to the condominium fees. So be it if it's on a sort of a touristical resort or a private sort of, private property on a complex, the prices do vary. But yes, absolutely, all that information is shared with the, beforehand even, or say they like the property, then we obviously get all the information for them.
And what about if you're anything like me, well, my wife, you'll look at a property, you'll say, I love it. However, I want that changed, and that changed, and that changed, and that changed. So are you able to advise on things like planning permission, even sort of, rule of thumb? If we want to do this, well, you could probably do that. You probably can't do that. Or would we need to get a lawyer involved for those kind of decisions, those kind of advice?
We would always recommend a lawyer, Chris. I would always get the clients introduced to a lawyer, just to make sure that obviously the things are the following the legal framework in Portugal. So we could, as much as we can guide, it's got to obviously they do need to get in touch with an architect if they want obviously change in the structural walls or something like that, or tearing up a bathroom or something like that. Then we do, we put them in the right direction. So we connect them with absolutely, but guide and recommend as much as we can. Absolutely.
Now, in terms of so we're on the viewing trip. It's all going well. We love the property. How much should we? I should have asked this beforehand. How much should we be budgeting for buying costs? So if I've got 250,000 euros to spend, so I'm probably not looking in Villamora, but I'm certainly on the Algarve. So if I got that kind of, how much should I be budgeting for buying costs?
It depends, Chris. Again, where you're buying in like I've previously touched as well. So if you're on a golf resort, obviously the buyer's cost, but the buyer's closing cost will be higher as well. So typically what you're looking at in general in Portugal are between 6 to 8%. That's the sort of a standalone property or a private villa or an apartment. You're looking at between about 6 to 8%. On a golf course, if you're buying something on a sort of complex, say in Villa Sol or on a golf course, they could go up as high as 10%. So what I do tend to obviously recommend clients do account for 10%. So and then you obviously covered for everything. So anything between 6 to 10%. But if you
Okay.
covered for, say, anything on top of the agreed purchase price, so that's
Right.
just to be on the safe side, so you cover everything.
Okay. So how many properties would you typically see on one day on a viewing? I suppose it depends how geographically separate they are and everything, but on average, what would you say?
Exactly. And this is why we're sort of trying to to do it in sort of regions and zones, so areas, which is perhaps maybe one day you'll scour one area. We could see anything from sort of 6 properties to 10 properties to 6 to 10. It just depends what's available as well, and how sort of far apart they are. And
okay, and okay, so we found the property that we like. So you've already said it's okay to ask for maybe 5 or a little bit more, below 5% or so below the asking price, but you wouldn't want to risk. I mean, presumably, if it was that far overpriced, then you wouldn't have put it on at that price anyway. So you will already have listed realistically.
Exactly, absolutely. I mean, the buyers can always make an offer. You can always put in an offer, but what we do advise, obviously, typically in the Algarve, the sellers will consider, will accept, between 5 to 10%. Obviously, as long as that offer is not too low within the price cost. And what I typically do advise clients as well, I think it's very important to come and see the property. So come and see it first, because, instead of, obviously, they're trying to do the negotiations beforehand, because
Yes.
you've got to, obviously, you need to understand if it's a good price point for the market and the location and the type of property that is, then, it's worth seeing it, obviously, firsthand, and then you put in absolutely, we encourage them to put an offer. And then based on that.
And how does that? And how does that process work? So is it as a buyer, I just say to you, yeah, I want it, but I want to offer 5% below the asking price, and is that just how it works, or does there some sort of formal written letter or anything?
They communicate with our agents directly, and then the agents put it through to the owners. Not necessarily sort of a formal written. I mean, it could be even done by email or or something like that. But it's communicated through the consultant. The consultant then communicates to the owner.
And do you find that those negotiations are done? Is it like a couple of phone calls and an hour and it's done, or does that tend to happen over several days?
Absolutely, it's quite quick. It's a very sort of straightforward process here in Portugal. Yes, it can be done by a few phone calls. I mean, typically, I know that's happened many a time. So it just depends what the owner comes in with a counter offer. Then he may sort of, and then if there are certain conditions in place. But typically, I would say it's a very sort of fast moving process here in Portugal. It does not drag out. Once the offer has been accepted, then it's smooth sailing. Smooth sailings. If you're obviously not applying for mortgage or financing, when it tends to typically maybe drag things a little bit, because you're waiting for approval. If you are a cash buyer, you've solidified your offer right there and then with having cash in the first place. And so once the offer has been accepted, then it's really very sort of easy and straightforward process. It's down to the lawyers then, and it's all the.
That's an interesting. So that's an interesting question. So if we just go back to the very start of the process, and we're planning on what we might be able to afford, do you have? I mean, we have mortgage partners at Your Overseas Home who can make
you
give
recommend
you a quickly. Would you want to get that decision made before you come out? Do you think?
In terms of the financing, yes. Like I've said at the beginning as well, Chris, it's financial qualification is one of the the criteria that we would be looking at. So
how would we prove that? So what would you want to see from us before we come out on a subsidised trip like this?
Either, and I mean, you're okay to send us, your pre-assessment form, for example, from your bank or something like that, just for us to have, obviously, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
by email or attachment or something like that, or proof, even verbally as well. Is just being in that position to be able to. All we really want the clients to do, if they do see something they love and they want to buy, they're in a financial position to do so. There's not necessarily a sort of a pressure to buy on the trip, but should you come, obviously, in the situation that you do see something, you find something you love, okay, I want to buy it. We just want you to be in a financial position to do so. So be it even, having a deposit or having cash or available to you.
Is there a kind of reservation deposit that one would pay if you found the property that you want? Presumably, we want it taken off the market. If we found it, we've made our offer. It's been accepted. So I want, as a buyer, I want to protect myself as much as anyone else by getting it off the market. So would I pay a small sort of reservation deposit, and how much would that be?
Absolutely, yes. It's a very safe process here in Portugal, as I said. So it's protected by law. So it's very protected. You can reserve any property. So any property, be it an apartment or a villa that you want to purchase, you reserve it with a holding deposit of €6,000.
Okay.
So that technically what that does is takes the property off the market and gives your lawyer enough time for the due diligence. So it holds it for about 2 weeks. That's still refundable to you. So we don't keep that money. The lawyer doesn't. It goes into an escrow. It's a protected escrow account. In the meantime, the lawyer does the due diligence, like I said. So obviously checking the documentation is right, which they will be even before the listing stage when you see it on the website. Any debt on the property, all of that. Then it's obviously moving on to the first stage. So it's the promissory contract. This would be your first legally binding contract, where you're expected to put down anything from 10%. So minimum in Portugal is 10%. We do advise clients to put anything between 10 and 20, because that obviously solidifies the offer, and especially if you want to go for a mortgage as well, it just puts you in a better position. It's a CPCV, so it's contractor to vendor purchase and sale contract. It is a legally binding contract. Should you come out of that, you naturally lose that deposit, that's 10% or 20% that you put down. If the seller comes out of it, then they have to pay you double the amount.
Hence, if you paid 20%, then they would have to pay you 40% to
40%, exactly. If they've come out, once the CPCV, so once the promissory is signed, it is legally binding at that stage. And then obviously the next step would be to get a date to establish a date for the deeds, when to exchange, when the balance is paid. So minus what's been paid up so far, so minus the 6,000 and minus the keys are exchanged, and that's obviously between the seller and the buyer. And then that can be sort of typically in Portugal here, sort of from 30 days to 45 days, so a month, 2 months.
Really, because I mean, in some countries it's 6 months, isn't it? But it's really quick there.
That's fantastic. Know, and I'm actually getting a lot of clients being very surprised by that, actually. And I'm talking to lawyers every day, and so I have got. We say, I mean, you hear it from the horse's mouth, not really, but I mean, I am talking with lawyers and what's happening, what's typically, time, obviously. The only thing that can, applying for a mortgage, so that can obviously, increase the delay, because obviously waiting for an assessment, or the banks may need, documents and then back and forth. That may sort of, it may obviously take longer, not to say that, but in general, typically. And I do hear from the UK clients as well, in the UK, it's actually longer. It's a lot longer process than in Portugal, which is quite, surprising in a way that you would think that, but it's moving along very quickly. So,
well, I mean, in thinking of the comparison with Britain, and I know, we'll have viewers from other countries who will have their own experiences, but in the UK, a couple of things we would do. Firstly, there would be the risk of gazumping or gazundering, where someone is committed mentally to it, and then the other party does the dirty. They either say, actually, we don't want to buy it. We want to pay 20,000 less, or the seller says, actually, we want more. I guess you can't do that in Portugal. It's much more protected.
You cannot. It's very legally protected, obviously, as I said, from the 6K that you're putting down, which is technically refundable to you. It can hold the property for about 2 weeks, we say maybe max 3 weeks, but it just to give enough time. So you say, for example, you come on a trip, you've loved something, you want to get it. You can obviously secure it. It's a holding deposit. You can secure it with that. Get in touch with a lawyer, or even get a POA, get a power of attorney done. Whilst you're there, we invite you to we invite the lawyers over. You get to meet them. You do a power of attorney, and then they can take care of everything for you. So they will open a bank account for you, and then a tax number, NIF, which is the NIF here in Portugal. So
another difference, and one of our team, one of our overseas home team writers is buying a property in London, and they've just had a survey done, and of course the survey has thrown up all these different small problems, and instantly they've got into this fresh negotiation over price. I think the surveys are sometimes used as a tool to try and knock down the price. Do people in Portugal get surveys done? Is that a normal thing, or is there a different system? How do you know that the property you're buying is structurally sound? It doesn't have damp, doesn't have those kind of problems.
It's part of actually the lawyer's job here in Portugal as well, Chris. So the lawyer will obviously will it's not the lawyers themselves doing it. Obviously, they will appoint. If it's not the lawyer, then the banks, whilst you're waiting for your mortgage, this will be all part of the mortgage application. Actually, so here in Portugal, it's part of the being assessed by a mortgage. It will be one of the conveyance or just a representative to go over to the property to make sure that everything is
Okay. Now, we've talked about
it's one of the steps, obviously, it's one of the technical steps, I guess, too.
We've talked about viewing trips like this, but I mean, behind me, you wouldn't believe it because of the picture, but actually Heathrow Airport is behind me. I could fly out tomorrow morning. I could be there by 10:30. And I could fly back at 7 in the evening. I guess, is there any room for that kind of impromptu, just let's just get out there and do it trip, or would you always want people to have planned it long in advance?
Absolutely. No, but we're having just as much as sort of last minute clients flying out as much as somebody booking 3 months ahead, 3 months advance. So it's not I think that the sweet spot probably would be, with a little bit of obviously notice in advance, just so we can have a chance to rapport build and source properties for you. And but absolutely. You can also do it as a last minute thing, and you can do it anytime. Really.
Or to view it, or to go for the second viewing. So if you've come out on your own, you've checked out the properties, and you've got a couple that you want to show your husband or wife, or the kids, in fact, bring them out to have a look. One could be a bit more, okay.
It tends to happen as well. Yeah, it tends to happen. They're flying in on a second visit or second viewing. Absolutely.
Okay, so I've come to the end of my questions. We've come to the end of the viewers' questions. Is there anything else you think is there anything I haven't covered that I need to know? I think we've covered,
pretty much
I know what I'm doing. Yeah, I think I know what I'm doing. Okay, so I can't wait to come out and view some properties now. So thank you. We have now run out of time. So just a reminder for our viewers of other webinars that are coming up. Next week, a special webinar all about how new policies out of the USA are affecting exchange rates and buying more generally. It's not only affecting American buyers. Exchange rates are up and down like anything at the moment. So that's next week. On the 25th, we go on all about Portuguese golden visas. They haven't gone away. You can still go to golden visa. They've just changed. So if you found this session helpful, it would be great if you could leave a quick review on Trustpilot. There should be a link coming up. Yep, there you go. There's that. And So all it really leaves me to do is say a big thank you to Christina. You've been really, really, really helpful. Oh, there's also a link come up to our virtual event, which is in October, which doesn't seem that long. Well, it seems a long way away, but it's not that long away, in fact. Yeah, so please do get in contact with Christina and Ideal Homes Portugal, and good luck on your Portuguese property journey. Thank you, Christina, and thank you to our viewers.
You're welcome, and I hope, I do hope that everybody's found helpful. Just a quick note as well to say, Chris, if we've got a few minutes still to go, about the special offer that we're doing. So for anybody, like we said, obviously, last minute, viewing trips, and you want to take advantage of that. There is an offer that we are currently doing for June and July months for £149 per person.
Fantastic.
And so that's all inclusive. So that's your flights, your accommodation, your stay, your pickup from the airport, and all the sort of legal advice, investment advice they're benefiting from. So
excellent. So we'll be sending all our viewers an email, and then they can reply to that, and we'll set you up with that special offer. Fantastic. Okay. Well, thanks again, Christina, and be seeing you soon.
You're welcome. Lovely seeing you again, and all the best to everyone.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.